Hey legends! Today in this lesson we're going to talk about how do you actually arrange a piece when you've got bass, harmony and melody. So here are the options of what you can actually play on the piano. You can actually, in the left hand, you can play the bass line. In this case we're doing Yellow by Coldplay, 3-chord song in the verse, F sharp. Just kind of grounding it with that bottom note and giving it some momentum with the top octave there. So this is just a typical bass line that I've chosen to play this particular piece. Now, what my right hand can do is either the melody or the harmony. The harmony are the chords, so I'll show you the harmony first. And all I'm doing is just a 2/4 rhythm pattern there. Doing an E major 7 there. Now the other thing my right hand can do is the melody. So just here we go. Just the melody and bass together. Okay, so there's two options for the right hand, the harmony and the melody. So the question is, what do you actually do with your hands when you're given a chart? Well, that all depends on where you're performing it. So for example, if I was playing solo piano, I would want to make sure I'm covering the bass, harmony and the melody all together. And the way I do that is I'll make sure the melody is always the top note there, bass is always the bottom. I'm filling in between with whatever I can free up with my hands there. I'll show you what I mean. So I've got that melody at the top. And I'm trying to harmonize underneath the melody. And I'm making sure that the melody is still the loudest part of the handbell. So there's two ways I can do that. I can actually harmonize in the gaps of the melody. So I'm harmonizing in the gaps. Or I can actually harmonize that melody. So here's the other approach. So when I'm playing the melody notes, I'm trying to play chords underneath. Okay, so that's a really good approach when you're doing solo piano. But what if you're not solo piano? What if you're playing with a singer or a sax player or a guitarist that are doing the lead lines? And in that case, you want to do an accompaniment style. So that means bass and harmony. And all I would be doing in that situation is I'm varying my chords a little bit with the parent scale. But you get what I mean. So that's a really great thing to keep in mind when you're accompanying. You don't want to be playing the melody, because if you're laying down the melody straight how you hear it, and the singer's got a different interpretation, or they want to improvise, ad-lib it a bit, make it their own, you're really going to get in the way of that by playing melody too. So when you're accompanying, steer clear of the melody, just focus on bass and harmony. Now, the other thing that happens is that you might actually be in a band, and that band has a bass player, and that bass player is hammering those notes. Now, in those situations, you don't normally want to play in that bass area on the piano. So the reason is you might have a particular bass line, or in this case we're keeping it pretty straight. The bass player might have a little idea that they want to do. And if you're sort of hammering around in that area, all their ideas are going to get all mushed up. So when you're playing with a band, try and get your left hand out of that bass territory. So what does your left hand do? You might find it does nothing if you're playing with a singer as well. But what you can do too is if there's no melody instrument and it's down to you, you can actually provide the harmony with your left hand, which is kind of called left hand comping style. And you don't need to worry about playing the root note. That's an E. I don't need to worry about the root notes because I know my bass player has it covered. Yeah, so there's the three different options I would look at. So if you're solo piano, try and do melody, harmony, and bass all together. If you're doing accompaniment, just bass and harmony. You could also do a little bit of melody in between the melody that your singer's doing. And finally, if you're with a band with a bass player, steer clear of that left hand. Get the left hand on a chord, and you could do your melodies in the right hand. Or if you've got a singer there, just filling in between. So na na na, na 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 na. So you could find little interesting melodies that you could do in between the vocal phrases there. I've shown you a lot in this pop context, so I do that exact same concept with jazz. So for example, Autumn Leaves, here's how I might approach it as a solo pianist. Bit of mixture of the melody, harmony and the bass. Harmonizing that melody. Okay, so that's kind of how I would go in that solo jazz thing, where I'm the bass player, on the harmony, and on the melody. So yeah. Now let's say you've got a singer, trumpet player, or whatever it is playing the melody. Now I don't need to worry about the melody as much, but because I'm still the accompanying instrument, there's no bass player at this stage, I've still got to make sure I'm hammering those root notes and the harmony. I'm trying to make nice little counter melodies by varying up the chord inversions. Momentum with walking bass. Okay, so there's my accompaniment style of Autumn Leaves. Now let's say I'm finally working with a nice jazz trio and I've got a bass player there and a drummer. In that case, I don't want to play any of those bass lines, because if I'm walking like this and they're walking like this, you might get different kind of, you get this yucky, muddy sound. So then I'm going to do my left hand comping style, and I love this style because it really frees you up from that. It frees up that right hand from worrying about, oh, I've got to keep that rhythm going. You can really be a little bit more free with it because your left hand is just outlining that harmony there. So that's left hand comping style. So there you have it, 3 different ways that you can approach a chart. How do you start out? I mean, I like to make sure I've got the harmony and bass down first, then I like to learn the melody. But just remember those old traditional days when you're learning a sheet music for the first time. Your teacher always said hands separately. So just remember there's a lot going on with just working out how to do a walking bass line. So you can spend ages in your practice session just working on walking bass line. Then you could do a practice session just on harmonies with the right hand, harmonies with the left hand, and then a whole other practice session just on melodic playing. So what I'm saying is don't put too much pressure on yourself to put hands together with all these techniques at once. It takes time to learn this stuff, and you might need to spend a whole week just nailing things hands separately before you start putting it together. So I hope this tip helps. You get the idea of why you need to change how you play things in different settings. Hey guys, I really enjoyed making that one for you because it comes up a lot, like what do you actually do with your hands? And I hope I've addressed some of these questions for you. So knowing, yeah, you've got your solo piano style, your accompaniment style, and playing in a band, and different things your hands do in those situations. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.